What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. This is Lone Wolf, and in this video, it's all about keybinds. A new take on keybinds that will help people of all levels. With that being said, let's get into it.
Our gaze is shifted upwards to the sky.
Welcome everyone. By far the most requested video on my channel currently, key binding. Like I said in the beginning, we're going to take a deep dive on everything that is keybinds. What's unique about this video is that I will be talking specifically about marksmanship hunters from 3 different perspectives: the beginner, intermediate, and lastly, advanced key binding tips. And while this is focused on marksmanship hunters, you can 100% take these methods and tips and use them across everything. If you are new to the channel, hi. We talk all day and every day about marksmanship hunters, bringing you guides, gameplay, and add some beats into the mix for some chill vibes. If you like the sound of that, then go ahead and subscribe for more content, and give this video a like and a share if you enjoyed it. Making your keybinds as efficient and comfortable as possible isn't solely based on in-game parameters, but also in real life. I have personally used many keyboards and mice, but after many years, I found that a Naga mouse with the side buttons a massive welcome to helping with key binding. It was by far the biggest help of everything that I've done. With regarding keyboards, I found that any keyboard can work, but there are obvious perks to some, and in my opinion, mechanical keyboards give you the feedback you need to fully realize the press of a button. I also found that with a Naga mouse, I didn't need a big ass keyboard anymore, and I got myself a much smaller one, which increased my table space. I also found that after playing on keyboards for so many years, I have developed certain pains on my left hand and wanted to alleviate it, and I found myself an orb weaver to try. The change from keyboard to the orb weaver wasn't as profound as the change from a normal mouse to a Naga, but it is damn near it. Ergonomic enough to completely negate my long-lived pain in my hand, and adding additional buttons for my thumb to press has made my World of Warcraft experience much more enjoyable and streamlined. I highly recommend trying it if you can. You can find links to the Naga, keyboard, and orb weaver in the description below, and note that they are Amazon affiliate links, which means anything you buy will directly support the channel at no additional cost. So I thank you in advance if you did. Alright guys, so let's get into the meat of the video. Let's start it out with, what are keybinds? The answer is simple. Keybinding is being able to customize key presses with specific abilities or commands to get a specific outcome. Can I play World of Warcraft without keybinding? Yes. So why should I keybind? Keybinding allows you to completely disregard many shortcomings of clicking abilities with your mouse. It's important to understand that while the global cooldown that WoW has gives you some leeway into clicking an ability and then click another, it all starts to crumble the moment you have to press multiple abilities in quick succession. And this can be alleviated by macros, but then there is travel time. The amount of time your mouse goes from one ability to another. No matter how proficient you become at clicking abilities, there will always be this lag. Now, perks for keybinding is literally having the power of the mind at your fingertips. This may sound exaggerated, but whatever you think in your mind, you can almost immediately convert it into action by the press of a button. This is much slower when learning to keybind, but after a while, it'll become second nature to the point that you might not even have to think about it. Pure muscle memory. Okay, so how do I start learning to keybind? Welcome to the beginner section. We've arrived at the section for people who still click and are looking for a practical way to learn how to keybind. This is, in my opinion, the best and most organic way to learn keybinds, regardless of how long you've been playing the game. Make a brand new character. Legit. We've come to a point in WoW where you can level to max in less than a handful of hours, and even though this method still applies to past expansions, the abilities we gain now while leveling is much more consistent. And we have a new, faster default way to keybind, which will allow you to learn and grow at a personal level and pace. From the moment you step into World of Warcraft, I want you to read the ability you just got and think to yourself, where in my setup will this keybind feel most comfortable in? No matter the setup, there are basic rules to follow. How often will I press this? A lot? Choose the most accessible keybind. Rarely? Choose a keybind that won't be in the way but can be reached comfortably. The next question is, does this feel comfortable to press? And after 2 or 3 hours of playtime, consider your hands. I want you to see if your hand feels any discomfort or pain. And if it does, then switch the keybind. So the next question you want to ask yourself is, does this keybind allow me free movement? Basically, can I move in any direction and kite without being constricted to a specific direction or direction bias while pressing this keybind? If you don't have free movement, then consider changing that keybind. Now, the last question you want to ask yourself is, do I have a higher chance of fat fingering another keybind? If I press this keybind, do I have a higher chance of pressing another button next to it? If yes, then change it. At first, you'll have 1 to 2 abilities, so it will be easy to answer these questions. But as you level and gain more and more abilities, and quite frankly, hunters have a lot of abilities right now, like a lot, you'll realize that it will be to your benefit to maybe add modifiers to your keybinds so that the number of keybinds doesn't become detrimental to your gameplay. And we'll talk more about modifiers later in this video. So basically, you place your hands on your most natural position when it comes to your current setup and put the ability in the place you thought of for it and go use it a few times. If you like it, keep it. If you don't, then change and repeat. As you gain more abilities, you might run into a situation where this new ability makes more sense in a spot already being used. So try it out and make adjustments. Every 10 levels or so, when you're at an inn or selling your shit, sit back and look at your keybinds. Give yourself an overview of everything that you've just experienced and what you like to try or change, and keep pressing on. While learning these keybinds, there are 2 things you have to keep in mind at all times, no matter what. First, at no point should you rely, whether it's by habit or reflex, to click a button with your mouse. Don't do it. Mistakes will happen, but that's part of the process. Second, this takes time. If you play more than 2 hours in a day, I think you can get a good hang of it in 3 to 4 days from absolutely no experience. If you play less time, keep at it until it does become normal, up to a week or so of daily practice. If you skip a day, then this might take just a bit longer. If you follow this, you will achieve your goal without a doubt. So keep at it. Okay, so we've reached the intermediate section where we already know all of our abilities. We don't click any abilities anymore and are confident with our keybinds. This section is where you will spend a majority of your time honing your skills. Even after progressing into the advanced section, you will continue to make minor changes, and as new patches or expansions come out, you still will use tips learned here. At this stage, we start understanding the nuances of keybinds, and usually at some point, when reaching higher levels of competitive WoW content, there needs to be extra changes to maximize efficiency. These changes may or may not include moving your abilities to an area on your screen where it provides greater awareness for you, but stay with the same key press. Things like procs, defensives, and cooldowns you want to be able to quickly glance at and see if it's available to use without much issue. Tied to what I just said, but not entirely the same, is it is helpful to group up similar abilities or abilities that are used in sequence often so that your eyes don't have to go from one side of your bars to the other. Along the same lines, if you have an ability that is off the global cooldown but often go hand in hand with another ability, you can simultaneously save yourself a keybind and make it faster to use them by making a macro. Macros also make certain things work in a way that impacts your gameplay in a beneficial way. For example, some of our abilities are casted, and being able to interrupt an enemy at any given time becomes highly valuable, so making a macro that shows our counter shot and be able to interrupt the cast when pressed is the next natural step. We will not be talking about macros in this video, but we will release a video where I show my own macros. Okay, so that is the bulk of the intermediate section. You further align abilities to grab your awareness. You start grouping similar abilities with each other so that you can get used to looking at all of your defenses or all of your utility or all of your burst CDs versus having them all sprinkled about and your eyes having to keep checking this or that ability. After this, you go into further streamlining your gameplay with macros. For instance, 90% of my buttons you see on my hunter is some version of a macro. You will continue this until you basically know your keybinds by heart, where sometimes you don't have to look to use an ability. You just know that you press it and you will get your desired outcome. Which leads us into the advanced section of keybinding. The advanced section is for those who have already mastered the art of keybinds, but want to squeeze as much out of it as possible. Once you know this art, you may find that it becomes much easier to play alts by using similar keybinds for that alt. Does this alt have a heal? Then place your heal where your exhilaration is. Does this alt have a stun? Place it where you have scatter or freezing trap. Does this alt have a root? Then place it where your binding shot is, etc., etc. Same with damaging abilities. There comes a point where some abilities don't even need to be looked at in order for us to use it. So for example, I used to look at Arcane Shot to use it, or to see if I will have enough focus to use it, but after understanding my rotation and the amount of time I played my hunter, I know that I get much more information if I look at my focus rather than my abilities. So if I'm casting an aim shot, and I see that I won't have 25 focus to use an arcade shot afterwards, then I immediately start spamming steady shot instead. Basically, knowing the cost of your abilities and looking at your focus will help you way, way, way more than looking down at your abilities and hoping something goes a certain way. So since I look at my focus rather than arcane shot, I don't need to have arcane shot in my main set of bars. This allocates space for another important ability in its place instead, furthering my gameplay awareness. Looking at your play screen versus your abilities is the same as the travel time lag that happens with clicking abilities, and it adds up because your reaction time is even more important than looking at your bars. So part of the advanced tips is allocating real estate to your most important abilities so that your awareness becomes greater than it is with the information at hand. The next part might not be considered an advanced tip, but I see many people ignoring this when looking at their videos. Keybinding items like first aid, trinkets, and external abilities such as zone abilities and special abilities, or even conjured items from other specs like mage food or warlock health zones. Same could be said for things used often when doing a certain activities like pet battles or questing. At the end of the day, you may find it time efficient to keybind as much as possible that ties you with the activities you personally enjoy. Arenas is another example where arena focus usage alone can boost your rating by 500 to 700 points easy. Adding names of players to your macros instead of clicking the player and then pressing a button in both PvP and PvE can greatly enhance your experience. You want to break down barriers that hold you back from accomplishing a certain task. Key binding is definitely a great way to start this process since it allows you to hyper focus those things and change them. Keybinds may literally be your instruments to interact in World of Warcraft, so let it work with you rather than against you. Alright, so for those of you who stayed this long in the video, I want to repay your curiosity with some extra tips, alright? So the first tip is to consider which is your main hand. All right. So for example, I'm right-handed and I do everything. I don't know. I punch with my right hand. I serve myself water with my right hand. Everything is I write with my right hand, and then my left hand supports everything I do with my right hand. So as I'm pouring water, I'm holding the cup to pour the water. If I'm throwing a ball, then that means I'm gonna catch with my left hand if I'm playing like baseball. Stuff like that. So with that being said, I like to put my main abilities, my main attack abilities on my mouse. All right, if you don't have the Naga, this might not work for you, but everything that deals with damaging an ability, damaging a target, I put on my right hand, and everything that supports my character, I put on my left hand. So for instance, I use double tap with my left, and I go ham with it on my right with my aim shot, all right, or rapid fire, whatever it is. The second tip is having a specific role for your modifier. Okay, what I mean by that is, for example, everything that relates with my pet, or anything that deals with my pet, I reserve my control button for it. Okay, everything that is for self, for my character, or for information, I use alt. So self heals like Crucible Flame, alt. If I want to bring out the mini map or check out the BG score, whatever, alt with the button. Okay. And then with my shift, I use focus macros for my targets. So if I need to silence my focus target, if I need to scatter my focus target, everything is with shift. Okay. And then the last tip I want to talk to you guys about is saving even more keybind space. All right, by having a macro that whatever ability you choose. So for instance, let's look at our macros right quick. Right here I have row 1. All right, so if I put Serpent Sting, then this ability becomes Serpent Sting. Okay, if I pick Murder of Crows, then this ability becomes Murder of Crows. All right, so this, I mean, it's not too much for Monster Ship Hunters, but it's definitely a nice little space saver, and you don't have to worry about a different keybind for another ability or for ability that you're not using. So those are 3 tips that can help you out during key binding and to keep in mind. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Any tips, any other keybind stuff that you want to mention, put down in the comments. That way other people can see it. Give those comments a like. And yeah, with that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.